LeBron just got signed to the Sixers. No, serious.
Yo, Cardinal fans, you might want to take a book out of that Philly guys. Do they even have books for cooking? What am I talking about? Yeah, anyways, it is a Cardinal day. And trust me, for any team, defense wins championships, which means, yeah, Cardinal sin is not having one. Like these Cardinals. Don't take a page out of their book. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the NFL. Please like and subscribe. Hope y'all are ready for a team that has no defense. That is the Arizona Cardinals. What a fun one we have for y'all today, as it is a team that has a cursed schedule, a head coach in Mike LaFleur, who's going to try to give a good go at it. But again, this is definitely a roster that will be interesting to talk about. As y'all know, though, if you've not watched past roster grades, I do suggest going and watch the first time stamps of the first team we did in the series. That was the Jacksonville Jaguars. Go check them out, see what that was up with this, so you guys know how this works. But anyways, as we all know, we start with the quarterback position, which we're getting to very shortly. Then the skill positions, offensive line, overall offensive grade, which will just kind of get calculated after we go through that. And then, the defense, all that other stuff. Same thing. We're going to keep rolling with this. Over halfway through these, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, Cardinals. All right, quarterback position. They got a bunch of interesting dudes here. Well, not really. But we'll start with Keaton Slovis, who's definitely going to not make the roster. Keaton Slovis is an interesting dude. I guess he played last year. I'm not going to lie, I did not see that happen. But, again, obviously in college, he really never was that good. I guess the 2019 season, he was honestly pretty nasty. I'll say that. But biggest thing with him is that he's never been a mobile guy, always been a really true pocket passer. And he's just not really that athletic, not that great of an arm. And, I mean, again, if you don't have the right system for him, I mean, like, you're kind of cooked. And again, Pac-12 defenses and all, so yeah. But Keaton Slovis, I don't know. He'll be around. You'll probably maybe see him in the preseason. Carson Beck, he's probably the most, I guess, promising quarterback on this roster, if that's even a thing. Third-round pick, though. He's 23 years old. He's old as hell. I guess a couple years ago, he was supposed to be, like, a really solid first-round pick. But again, obviously 2021 didn't play. He was behind Stetson Bennett. Same thing in 2022. Came in 2023, was an absolute beast. Like I said, he was supposed to be the number one quarterback in that 2024 class. That didn't really happen. But obviously, I mean, guys, like, he was the dude after 23. Like, let's be honest. He was that guy. Why am I blanking? Oh, yeah, why am I blanking? Caleb Williams was around too, right? No. What am I talking about? Why am I geeking? Oh, yeah. Man, 2024. Yeah, it was for the 25 draft. I'm actually a brick. Obviously, that draft sucked. Why am I still blanking? Who was the quarterback taken in the first round last year? It was Cam Ward, yeah. But anyways, he was supposed to be like this highly touted prototypical pocket passer. Like, yeah, team's going to draft him. He's going to be a beast. But 2024, he had a bunch of turnovers. He got injured. Kind of sucked. Then he revived at Miami last year. Still a guy that's going to be pretty limited in your offense, but he is processing defenses at a higher level year by year, and he was much more accurate in 2025, back to that 2023 clip overall. Still, though, that offense, I think, was very, very talented. A guy like Malachi Toney definitely helped him out, and definitely a system where he wasn't asked to do as much as maybe some of the quarterbacks. Still, though, down the field, those fade balls, he's very, very good on. Still, though, again, maybe he gets in the field later in the season, but, like, he'll be battling for the backup spot with Gardner Minshew, who was limited in action last year because of that ACL tear. He had a very bizarre sort of thing going on there. Obviously, was slated to start those last three games, got injured versus the Titans, tore his ACL. Again, very bizarre circumstance with him and Mahomes. But that was basically his year last year. 2024, he obviously sucked with the Raiders. It was the worst year of his career, really nothing else to say there. His mobility is definitely taking a dip. I think after that first year in Philly, after like really not really being asked to do a lot there, he kind of fallen off a cliff. Again, last like real solid starting year was with the Colts, where he basically started every game that year. Again, he was really good in 2021 with the Eagles. That also want to mention that. But obviously he's been a backer for a while now. He has one, again, the least strong arms thing to say that. Still, his arm talent isn't completely gone because of the fact that he's actually pretty accurate. It's just the fact that, again, you look at this guy, he's not a guy, he's going to definitely limit your offense, both him and Carson Beck. Now their actual starting quarterback after all that, that's going to be Jacoby Brissett, who obviously just held out and got a lot of money to be their starting quarterback this year. Jacoby Brissett just had the best year of his career, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Basically, most of his numbers were garbage time stats. I'm really going to look at those, the Rams game, really. Again, you look at these numbers. Again, He had the most completions in NFL history against the Niners when they lost 41-22. That's actually ridiculous, guys. The reason for that was because obviously that game was in garbage time. But that was kind of his year. I think I'm not going to completely take his numbers away, but obviously, again, he wasn't supposed to throw for that many yards, and really the reason for it was because of again, it was garbage time. Like, again, also they legitimately had run their fourth string running back. That's how dire the situation was. We'll get into that in a little bit, but again, that's kind of the complete opposite here with what they did this offseason. But in terms of my opinion, Jacoby Brissett is a guy that is about an league average guy in terms of production. Last year, he was actually up there in terms of efficiency. But again, padding his stats. Is he a competitive quarterback? Probably not. But again, he's still got to move your offense going. And again, him and Michael Wilson had a crazy connection last year. Again, it's really hard to really debate his numbers because of the fact that again, this team was losing by a lot every single game. They fucking sucked. So you keep that in mind. It's like how good is he actually in terms of the competitiveness of this team? Probably not awesome. Still though, he moved the ball pretty consistently. So for me, I'm gonna give him a D plus a quarterback. Again, what am I supposed to say? Jacoby Brissett, what do you go? 1 in what? 1 in 11 as a starter. It was bad. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. And he's been a guy in the past, and there's a reason he hasn't started in a long time. Still, again, it's not the worst situation in the league. He can still move the ball, but we got to be a little bit more honest with ourselves. Is he going to be a guy that's going to get him to a 6-11, 7-10 record? Probably not. Now these skill positions, though. Similar to the Saints in the last video we did, this is a very, very fun skill position group. I don't think it's as deep as the Saints by any means, but it's still very, very interesting. Honestly, it might actually be. But anyways, at running back, they obviously have one of the craziest things going on right now. Obviously, bringing Tyler Algier to be their backup. He's obviously had that in the past. Again, you realize he's been a true starter since 2022. Jeremiah Love comes in as the number one guy out of the draft, in my opinion. Biggest thing with him is that he just gives you the absolute elite explosiveness with the high volume and just really not having much of a weakness at all, and just being so good at breaking tackles. Maybe not to the level that Ashton Dente was able to, but definitely solid, more size, and a much more compact running style. So Jeremiah Love, he's got that expected feast as a rookie. There's going to be times where I think, we're talking about fantasy even, where he's going to be this offense. As much as Jacoby Brissett and Michael Wilson cooked last year, they have a running back now. The offensive line, while it's still not a group that I think is really built to sustain, be a sustainable, create a lot of penetration per se. It's still a group that I think will be able to hold up whenever, Jeremiah Love can, do his thing. Still, though, again, there's really no excuse if he's not getting at least 20 touches a game, and that's at the very least. And then obviously Tyler Algier is here. Again, I think this is a very smart move by them. Obviously, last year, not at quite the same numbers we saw the past couple of years. The reason for that, I'm not going to get into too specifics, but obviously he was not the same player last year. Just didn't seem the same way. And again, his burst was kind of gone. Still, though, I think in the red zone he was just as effective. Obviously, the 8 touchdowns is there as a career high. But for me, I just don't think he was. I don't even know. It was a weird year overall. Zach Robinson, I don't think he's really the greatest of fits in Atlanta. Still, though, again, it was kind of a weird year. Definitely the worst year of his career, though, overall. So for me, I'm just kind of wondering to see what they're going to kind of do with him. I think Michael LaFleur put him in a spot where he'll be a lot more of an isolated between the tackles guy, which I think is where he'll be a lot better. Still, I like his curvature speed, so we'll see how that kind of plays into it. Because again, I don't think Zach Robinson really did a good job targeting that last year. Still, though, has he been a starter in a couple of years? No, but he still gives you that capability at times. Then you have James Conner, who looked awful last year before he got injured, which was basically 3 games. He's 32 now, 31. He's old. And honestly, after, again, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons where, again, really into 2023, he was downright, ridiculous with how good he played. But, again, I don't think we're going to get that same player really ever again. He was just so bad last year, guys. He's washed up. He'll still get a decent enough run in this offense, so I'll say that. With how crowded and how crazy it is, again, with Jeremiah Love being a rookie, I still think he'll get a couple carries here and there. Still, though, he's got a lot of work to do to get back on the field, and I don't think we're going to see 2024, 2023 James Conner really ever again. Still, though, the explosiveness was kind of nice to see those 2 years. Still, though, it kind of sucks. James Conner is a hell of a person, hell of a story there, too. But yeah, it kind of sucks. Then you have Trey Benson, who really can never stay healthy, and I mean, he's an explosive back. There's no doubt it. This is a guy that can just completely blow up open a game. But again, obviously last year, really good at that Thursday nighter game against the Seahawks where he played really well. But again, he hasn't been able to stay healthy really at all, and that's just something where again you look at him and you're like, how am I supposed to trust you at all? So again, crazy top 4 backs. But I mean, when Trey Benson got injured, it was like, what are we doing last year? So for me, I'm gonna give the running back room an A-. Maybe a B+. The depth is obviously insane. I think we'll stick at a B+. Jeremiah Love is an elite talent, yes, but can you justifiably say he will be a top 10 running back next year? Honestly, maybe. Tyler Algier, we'll give it an A-. It's too good of a group. It's just the fact, again, Tyler Algier didn't have a great year last year. Jeremiah Love's a rookie. James Conner's coming off the worst year of his career, and Trey Benson, I don't even know what to think about. So that's why. But it's so deep, and the fact that you have that sort of talent at the top there, I got to give them – I'm pretty bullish, to be honest with you guys. So, what was that, 30 points there running back? What the heck? 30 points. All right, wide receiver now. This is a group that has a lot of frustration with me and a lot of can you put a 1,500-yard sort of situation here. All right, Marvin Harrison. I don't know what's going on with him, but I don't think him and Jacoby Brissett really have any sort of a connection. Him and Kyler obviously had a lot of miscues last year. There's no way around it, but in 2024. But still, he was able to consistently stack cornerbacks in 2024 and make it very hard as a corner to kind of gain any sort of leverage. That was not the case last year. The biggest problem with this game last year was that his release package was too complicated. I think that's really the biggest thing here. And with that being the case, it's kind of hard for him to really, again, kind of create any sort of consistency and be a guy that could be a threat on every single down. Because his route tree is advanced enough where he can be able to do that, but it's kind of hard when you're not really being able to get that advantage every snap because of the fact that you're trying to do certain things against certain corners when you could just, again, master a couple things and really use those 2 or 3 releases to your advantage, which wasn't the case last year. So, also, again, I don't think him and Jacoby Brissett just aren't on the same page. Most of that is because the zone sort of stuff he still hasn't really gotten good at, which is kind of annoying because he's a guy that has that sort of awareness. So, Marv, I think, again, you could definitely be the guy last year, but, again, there's a lot of frustrating things going on with you. Again, I think really just downfield, if you're able to be more of a guy who can just cook zone, him and Jacoby Brissett would be a much better combo. Still, though, I don't love that fit. Again, it's just not – they don't have the same mindset there, and really just the play style, too. Then you have Michael Wilson, who obviously went for 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, guys. He was an absolute machine last year after kind of 2, I wouldn't say pedestrian, but definitely not as noticeable years. Biggest change with this game last year is he was an absolute threat over the middle. Really nothing special about the way he ran his routes differently. Again, obviously top route, huge adjustments in terms of his hips. But I think the biggest thing was just the fact that he was so much better presence over the middle. And that continues to happen. Maybe if he can be even more dominant in terms of his at the top of the route, breaking outside, especially in those comeback routes. I just had another element to his game. But he's obviously a guy that was highly productive last year in garbage time. I had to say that. And again, if he continues to dominate zone, he'll be chilling. Then you have Kendrick Bourne, who obviously has had a pretty crazy career. Last year, without catching a touchdown, had a pretty damn good year in the slot. Biggest thing I want to see with him is become more of a yak threat. Obviously, he got injured, tore his ACL with Patriots in 23. 24 really didn't get used the right way at all. Him and Drake May, honestly, they just overall just did not connect well again. But again, him and Jacoby Brissett have had connections in the past, so that is good. Biggest thing with me, though, for his season this year is can he be a guy, like I said, who can great enough yak, because he is 30, to kind of justify him being, again, an every down slot guy, and even then maybe breaking him outside at times. Then we have Xavier Weaver, who I guess caught some passes last year. This guy has not proven himself, and he's slow, so, like, what am I supposed to say there? Reggie Virgil, who the heck is that? Devin Duvernay actually had a decent year a couple of years ago with the Ravens. Really at 2020, it was 2022. He was legitimately the number 1 receiver towards the end of that year before, DeMarcus Robinson decided to play well. But for me, this receiving core is honestly in a decent spot. I'm going to give them a B. I want to give it a B+, but Marv has just not shown that consistency if really need to trust him there. He has not been a number 1 guy. He's been a number 2, but he's not been a number 1 so far. Michael Wilson, again, as good as he is, I don't think he is a guy that dominates the way you need to as a number 1 guy and gives you that consistency despite, again, his numbers last year and his really breakout season. And you have Kendrick Bourne, who, again, is a very solid option, but outside that, it's kind of a fall off a cliff. So I'm going to say a B. I want to give it a B+, but I can't quite do it just because of how inconsistent Marv has been. So 24 points there. Now at tight end, I don't even really need to talk about this. Tip Ryman, I don't even know. Did he tear his ACL? Is Tip Ryman out for 2026? Oh, okay. He'll be okay. Tip Ryman's a really good blocker. He can't catch to save his life, but again, he's a really good blocker, so that's kind of why he's there. Even that Trey McBride can block, I guess. Elijah Haynes was actually really good a couple of years ago. Last year, I guess he got out there and put up some numbers. Kind of a boring, do-it-all, versatile tight end. Tegan Quintariano, I haven't heard about this guy since he was in Houston in 21. Or I guess 22, my bad. But anyways, Trey McBride's the best tight end in football right now. I mean, I don't think there's really much debate about that. He damn near led the league in receptions. I mean, like, what are we doing? Obviously, I think some of his numbers towards the end of the season were kind of force-fed. But this guy's an absolute monster. You can't guard him. He boxes you out, kind of like Gronk in those days. And his speed and his overall athleticism kind of take games over. He has an uncanny awareness against zone. Just the instincts are off the charts. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. I mean, he's just that guy. So we'll say an A++. It's fair. You're the number 1 guy in the league. What is that? 26 points? Maybe? Yeah. Okay, offensive line now and the overall offensive grade after that. Okay, guys, looking at this Cardinals offensive line, it's a group that I don't really think got the justice they deserved last year. Kind of because, again, we'll talk about how bad this defense is. But The problem with this offensive line was that last year they got into a spot where they were so finesse-based and basically making sure that they're deflecting really just pure bull rushes that they kind of got away from really being able to block or kind of penetrate whatsoever as a run unit, and especially because of the fact that there's no cohesion. And really on the interior, it was really hard to watch at times. Still, though, you get high quality pass blocking for potential from all these guys, or just straight up production with a guy like Paris Johnson. I just want to see this offensive line excel because they do have that, but that can't happen. Again, really look back to 2023 where, again, I don't think they were awesome throughout the year. But, again, really early in the year for sure with Josh Dobbs and stuff. And obviously, just that in general. They were able to run the ball really well because of the fact that they're able, again, we got really looking at Paris Johnson. He was able to really isolate and kind of set those edges for these runners. Again, obviously, rest in peace, Ryan Moore, but I'm really looking at his ability at times. Those sort of plays kind of speak to the potential they have with this offensive line. It's just the fact that, again, especially talking just power run game, being able to run ISOs, things like that, and these trap sort of concepts, those are not really possible right now because they aren't pinning at all. So I think that'll change. Elijah Frolot's a guy that has been able to, is a really good blocker in that sense, but I think they've gotten away from that, and at least schematically, when you look at a guy like Michael Thor, that's got to change with this group. Anyways, though, Paris Johnson, obviously a very, very good player at tackle. Is he an elite guy in terms of the metrics? No. And really, athletically and physically, he's not really there either. But he gives you very, very consistent play, and he really never gets beat to the edge. And for that reason, I think he's arguably a top 10 left tackle. He's a very, very good player. Josh Fryer, also a solid option. Biggest thing with him is that he's just tenacious. And he's very, very hard to beat off the line. So, again, for that reason, you got to like him in that sense. Obviously, very, very flawed against these advanced techniques. If you were looking at, a guy who's going to break a scissor move out, probably going to be Josh Fryer because his hands are pretty weak. Still, though, if he gets the first punch in, you're probably in trouble. Isaac Salamalu, he's been around for a long time. He's played at average to a very high level at times in his career. He's definitely a little bit less effective these days. But again, really look at the Pittsburgh days. He's a guy that, again, is going to give you, again, like I said, very high level run blocking. Again, if he's in the right scheme, which doesn't really seem to be it, but we'll see. He obviously had a solid year. John Gaines, I don't know. He's kind of just around. He can't really block for shit, but he's there. Elijah Frollo, I already talked about him, very talented center. He's a nasty guy to go against. He's going to make it really, really hard on you to kind of beat you laterally. Then we have Hayden Hakaru, who I'm not going to lie, has not really gotten any snaps yet. I'd like to see him get on the field, though. I'll look at him during preseason. Matt Pryor kind of just hanging around on rosters. Isaiah Adams is a kind of an okay guy guard. The problem with him is that he has a fundamental flaw in his right hand in terms of again, he kind of just got a hitch in his punch. So think about it. When you come back and you're ready to go and you're like, bam, bam, he doesn't, it's kind of a disconnect, honestly, of sorts. It's weird on tape. But, again, other than that, he's a pretty solid player. Chase Pazantis, he's the number one guard coming out of A&M. I would not be surprised if he snatches the spot from Isaiah Adams. But, again, as a run blocker, still has some work to do. But in terms of pass blocking, his technique is honestly better than Isaiah Adams. Then you have Elijah Wilkinson, who kind of emerged last year as the starter. He's Unk. Last year, though, with the Cardinals, I think he had a much better season, just overall. He, honestly, for me, is definitely a reliable starter there. And then you have Uda. I can't pronounce his name. He's not very good. Offensive line-wise, for me, though, I'm probably going to give them a B. It's a good group. The problem is I just don't see the highest of ceilings with these guys because none of these guys' starters are really, truly worse than average, I guess, other than Isaiah Adams. And the depth, honestly, isn't that bad other than, I guess, not only having one guy at tackle that I can really trust. Christian Jones, we'll see what happens. But again, for me, it's just not a group that has really the greatest continuity. Or not even continuity. They just don't really work too well together, at least with the play styles. Still, though, I'm going to say a B. It's definitely a really good group. Again, there's really nothing to say. Other than, again, I guess you have one guy there in Paris Johnson who's really the only, true, I guess, star player. But other than that, again, it's like a bunch of solid players. So, B, for me, 6-12, 14 points at the O-line. If I'm not mistaken, right? 6-12, 16 points, I guess, yeah. If we have the overall offensive grade there, that's going to be 15, 30, 24. 26 and 16. That's going to give them 111 points for this offense, which, again, I think that's the same as the Saints, right? That's going to be a B-, which I think is where they belong. This is a talented offense, guys. The playmakers are obviously there. It's just the fact that, again, you look at this and you're like, Jacoby Brissett, what are we doing? And, the offensive line just isn't really, again, the identity isn't really there. With that said, oh, boy, it's time for this defense. Okay, guys, now we look at this Cardinals defense as we always do. We'll start with the front seven. This is a group that was probably the worst in the league last year by a decent bit. They couldn't stop a cold last year. With that said, though, they still have guys on this side of the ball where you're, really hoping that they can really emerge. We'll start with the linebackers, though. Again, it is a 4-3, so we'll kind of just talk about the D-line and the pass rush as a whole. Still, the linebacker, they have some interesting guys. Cody Simon's just not a guy I really look at as a starting caliber player. In coverage, while he isn't particularly awful, he can't line up against any sort of slot receiver or he will get torched. Again, there's definitely a lot of other guys that are like that too, but him specifically, that's what I noticed from him last year, and his tackle rate was kind of concerning as well. Still, though, gets to run, he showed a solid eye discipline, and his gap control was honestly pretty solid. It was just he didn't take on blocks really to the highest degree either. He's just getting a below average guy. Oh, Papo started in the past. He can't cover, save his life. There's really nothing else to say there. He's kind of a laying duck in the open field. What else do we have? Mac Wilson Sr., he's definitely a starting caliber player for me in a lot of ways. I don't really think he can take on the true responsibility, again, in terms of his tackling rate. Still, though, obviously, got injured last year, kind of a concerning injury, but still nothing insane. He's probably the best cover guy overall, too, but the biggest problem with him is when he's a true Mike, it's very, very hard for him to cover two gaps because of the fact that he has more responsibility than I think he can really hold there. For that reason, I think that this run defense is going to be in a little bit of trouble with that. But still, if you kind of give Mac a little bit less pressure and coverage, I think they'll be in a better spot. Jack Gibbons has started in the past. Last year, he kind of was awful. Really, you look at that 2023 year of the Titans, you're like really encouraging season. Obviously, some inconsistencies in zone coverage, but still not that bad year. Still a really promising year overall. He stunk in 2024 with Titans. Went to the Patriots last year, kind of had a revival season. Much more conservative, much more of a reduced role in terms of responsibility, but still was very, very effective in that defense. Comes over here to the Cardinals. I think he'll be a very solid option for them. It's just the fact that he is not a guy that is going to be limited in his overall range, which I think is going to be an issue in terms of stopping these edge threats. Then again, you kind of have a very unique system they run here at sub linebacker. It's not really a sub linebacker. It's basically a third edge rusher, to be honest with you guys. Zaven Collins, they've really tried to put in that role as, again, this kind of effective guy, but they kind of took him out of it after that 2024 season because he just simply is not a pass rusher. He has decent bend for sure. He's a very athletic guy. That's why he was taken 16th overall. But he just doesn't really have any sort of skill set there or any power as a guy to really kind of be a threat there. They kind of put him in a little bit more of a facilitative role where they kind of chess piece, move him around. And I think he was definitely a better spot last year. Still, though, again, kind of putting him in a spot where he's a flat zone contender. There's a lot of stress put on him there. And I think him being in more of a role where he can kind of just kind of get after it and kind of track the ball, that'll be in a much more effective spot for him because he's a guy that does have that range. And obviously, again, it's a blitzer. It's very valuable. They do have Barrett Browning, who's basically their, again, true like dynamic guy off the edge, other than obviously their D-line. Biggest problem with me with what I see with Barrett Browning is he's never really been a guy that's have any sort of true number one pass rush move. And despite him being obviously gifted athletically and obviously very, very solid range, he just doesn't really have a true fit in this defense. That's part of the reason he really kind of didn't do too well last year after getting traded mid-season 24. Then you have B.J. Ojolari, who was well on his way a couple years ago in 2023 to being a star on this team. He didn't play at all in 2024, bad injury, and then he came last year, just wasn't the same. His first step was kind of gone. It kind of sucks. I hope this guy he gets a chance to really move up on the roster. Watch him during preseason for sure. He's probably their highest potential guy in terms of a true edge rusher outside of obviously Josh Sweat. For me, though, this linebacker overall has a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. For me, I'm going to give it a C+. I think Mac Wilson's a guy that can be definitely a solid starter for them, but he's put in a role where he's got, I think, spread a little bit too thin. Still, though, it is not the worst group in the league, just obviously with the coverage issues there at the end of the day. All right, no, I'm not going to mess with that. All right, let's move to this defensive line. It's a group that has, again, really two guys that I'm looking at in terms of, like, yeah, those guys are solid, then a bunch of yeesh. Honestly, Josh Sweat had an absolutely monster season last year, 12 sacks. I think he was like 5th or 6th in the league in pressures. He absolutely went off. Again, he's never really been a great run defender because of the fact that he has never been able to set the edge or kind of shed blocks at even a respectable level. But he has been good in terms of his gap control overall in his time in Arizona. Biggest thing changed in terms of pass rush last year is that he did add a system move that was great off of his inside counter, and that really just, again, made it very, very hard for tackles to kind of judge whether he's going to try to beat you around the edge or just straight blow you up with power. So, no Diddy there, but Josh Sweat is one of the better pass rushers in the entire NFL. With that said, though, Jordan Birch is going to be the guy behind him. He's a guy as a rookie who I don't really think got used right. They kind of tried him at 3-tech early in the season, but he got absolutely destroyed against the run, so they kind of kicked him out to more of a 5-tech guy, and that still didn't really work. Kind of a weird thing going on with him. Still, though, the pressure rate was respectable enough where I think they'll definitely give him a little bit more run. But for me, I think that if Jordan Birch can become at least somewhat of a respectable run defender in 3-tech, really just with the technique there, and we're just looking at his lower half there, he could be a guy that could be a big threat there. Because the pass rush, while it wasn't consistent last year, was still came in bunches. Then obviously you have Darius Robinson on the other side. Darius Robinson, for me, is a guy that still hasn't really put it together really even at all. Again, 3 tech defensive linemen. They're trying to put him on the edge. Cannot win outside really whatsoever. He has no speed move whatsoever, and his finesse moves are kind of clunky to say the least. They have gotten better from his rookie season, but the pressure rate just isn't really there right now. For a guy that was taken in the first round, who I thought was going to be a solid run defender, very versatile player, hasn't really turned into that yet. And again, until the pass rush numbers are respectable, it's kind of hard for me to really like him. And on tape, he hasn't really been dominating whatsoever. Dante Stills, he sucks. What else do you want me to tell you guys? This is a guy that against the run will give you at least solid production, but he has no pass rush game whatsoever, and he just doesn't get pressure. It's that simple. He sucks. Then again, after that, it's kind of like what's going on. I mean, I guess Jonah Williams is there, but I don't really care there. Roy Lopez is just really a nose tackle. He obviously had an amazing rookie season with the Texans in 2021. After that, kind of sucked for a while. Last year with the Lions, he was a saving grace for the run defense, a group that obviously struggled mightily at times last year. He was very, very good, though, in the absence and really the Lee McNeil kind of situation going on there, too. So Roy Lopez I expect to be good. He's been in the Cardinals in the past, knows their systems pretty well. It's just the fact, can this dude be a positive influence other than just being a kind of run stuffer? Then you have Walter Nolan, who's definitely their number one guy. He had a very encouraging season last year before he got injured. Biggest thing I want to see with him, though, is can he win with the inside-outside sort of cutting? Because if that does become a presence in his game, it's going to be very, very hard for guards and centers to kind of pass off his really energy, to be honest with you guys, because that's basically how he runs. LJ Collier, get out of here. Andrew Billings is a run stuffer. PJ Mustipher sucks. He sucked his entire career. Other than, I guess, that 1 year, there was 1 year he had with the Saints where he was actually okay before he got injured. He obviously been with other things have been going on with him. But for me, though, this D-line overall has a lot of questions and not a ton of answers. For me, I think that overall I'll probably give their D-line a C+. We'll say a C+. It's not the worst in the league. What is that gonna be? 12 points. There's definitely some run defense there. C for their pass rush, though. Josh Sweat's gonna be carrying it. We know that. But other than that, it's kind of hard for me to project this pass rush as being even somewhat productive as a whole unit, just because you really only have one guy that's going to give you it. And while Walter Nolan coming out, who's, again, projected to be an average to an above average guy in the league in terms of pass rush impact, if he can influence pocket, Roy Lopez can be even somewhat decent in terms of washing out certain guards. It'll make it a lot easier for Josh Sweat, but he's got a tremendous amount of pressure on him. Again, I like Jordan Birch a lot, but there's a lot of work they need to do there. That's what I have for the front seven, though. Let's get in this secondary. Okay, guys, now we get to this Cardinals secondary that obviously had a rough season last year as a whole. Still, though, there's some guys in there that have been very, very good. We'll start out with the quarterbacks. First off, Will Johnson. Last year, his season was kind of a mixed bag. Obviously, a lot of people were concerned after that 2024 season in terms of the injury concerns. He obviously wasn't completely healthy last year. Still, though, at least in terms of man coverage, he was pretty damn good. In zone, obviously, a little bit uncomfortable at times. I think he definitely started to show some disinterest, especially in that Rams game where he got burned a lot. But yeah, kind of had an all-around wash of rookie season. Still, though, there's a lot of good things going for him, but I think that he can be a Pro Bowl level corner for whatever that means future in his career. Not an encouraging rookie season overall. Still, though, Will Johnson has a lot to work on. Sean Murphy-Bunting kind of got his spot stolen after that 2024 season. Didn't really play at all last year. He was good with, in 24 with them. He's a very athletically focused guy, and for, again, now being 29 years old and not really being much of a man presence at this point in his career, it's kind of hard to see me thinking that he'll be, again, a positive influence every down. Still, though, he's a solid player. Denzel Burke, last year, honestly, wasn't too bad. Obviously, some stiff hips definitely hurt him a little bit, but in terms of this engaging and really closing on the ball, he was very, very good. And, well, again, the zone coverage inabilities there definitely inhibited his overall effectiveness. Similar to Will Johnson, encouraging season. I do expect him to be a better player this year. Starling Thomas, he sucks. Max Millen, he sucks. Garrett Williams had an absolutely tremendous 2024 season. 2025, kind of a mixed bag overall. He got burned a lot in terms of these in-cutting routes, which is an issue because in the slot you need to be able to keep all those quick guys. But he's definitely a big-time playmaker. I expect him to kind of bounce back in 2025. Or 26. Isaiah Oliver, he's been decent in the past, but obviously overall he's never been even remotely respectable in man coverage. For me, this quarterback room is a lot of we'll see. We hope these guys progress, but not a ton of provenness there. I'm going to say a C+ overall. A lot of unpredictability. The depth isn't awful, though, so I think this quarterback room it's not as bad as people are going to say it is. There's definitely talent there for sure. Now I move to safety, and really the biggest thing here is there's just a void of anyone who can cover. Obviously, Budda Baker's probably the best run defending safety in football. That's where he's been made his bread and butter since 2017. Still not seeing that the fact he's going to do his 11th year with this team or 10th season with this team. I'm kind of wasting away here. I really wish they traded him, but they're giving him his money. He seems to be chilling. I mean, that's kind of what's going on there. But yeah, Budda Baker is a elite safety in all sense of the world, except the fact that he can't cover. Kenny Crawford, I don't really care about. Andrew Winger's going to be interesting as a true free safety because he's definitely a missile. It's just a problem that he really has never been consistent enough as an over-the-top guy to really trust. Still, though, he has the overall speed and range to kind of, I think, still be a viable option there, but he's just not great overall. You know, Daniel Taylor-Demerson, who last year just really was inadequate in a lot of ways. He never really engaged in the ball great, and well, I think in coverage, he's still a guy that is very capable. In zone, he just doesn't really have the innate consistencies to really think that he'll be a guy you're going to really trust. For me, though, the safety room overall is kind of a mixed bag. I'm going to say a B-. Again, as good as Buda Baker is, it's kind of hard for me to, we'll say a B-. I don't think Andrew Wingard overall was an effective black guy. So we'll say a B-. The identity, I think, will really stick for me there. But still, 18, 12, 20, right? Another 12, and then a 21. That's going to be 83 points for this defense, which, honestly, again, it's not the worst group in the league, but, again, there's a reason they're there. That's going to put them in the D+ tier. I think we'll say that's a little bit harsh. We'll say a C-. The problem with this defense is that while it's not the most talented, again, it's just that structurally it's kind of like, what are we doing? So we'll get into that, like, right now. A little bit of a pre-fire, guys. We'll first get into the special teams unit, and this is definitely a group that has definitely some potential. Chad Ryland last year's their kicker was absolutely inconsistent, or consistently inconsistent. He was money at 24 before the injury. Last year kind of was all over the place. Still 50+. He was at least somewhat respectable. I don't know. He's just kind of around. He's a good kicker. Then you also have Blake Gillikin. He's been their punter for a couple of years. He has a big leg, but doesn't always translate into, accurate punts. Devin Duvernay's been a dynamic returner really his entire career. Casey Kreider is kind of an average long snapper from what I've heard. For me, the special teams unit away is kind of a wash. I'll say a B-, though. There's definitely some good things going on there. That's going to be 7 points. Now for the depth. Quarterback depth, I don't really know what to say. I'm going to say a C+. Running back depth, I'll say an A+. That's probably a B+ so far. Receiver, I'd give a D+. So we're probably, I don't know, B- so far. Tight end depth, I'd probably give a C+, or we'll say a B-. So we're probably still sticking at a B. O-line depth, probably overall is a C+, so I'll say we're down to a B-. Overall, the D-line depth is probably a D. It's pretty, no, not even that. It's probably a D-. It's bad. Just overall, the pass rush even. I'm going to say that's probably dropping down to a C+. Linebacker depth is actually pretty good, so we'll say we're still sticking at a C+. Secondary overall, I'll probably say is a B-. I'm going to still say a C+, though. And it's really just the fact they have no depth in terms of their pass rush. That's kind of where it comes in there. 24 points, though, for their overall depth. And it's like the team doesn't have really too many holes in terms of the depth in this roster. It's just the fact that, the pass rush. And with that said, identity of this football team. No idea what the hell it's going to be. Not going to lie to y'all. I think Michael LaFleur will at least install some things in this offense that will make it more functional, not we're going to throw the ball around the yard. We're going to get absolutely, BTA'd. So keeping that in mind, again, I think that's at least somewhat sustainable there. I still think Jacoby Brissett's going to make them a competitive football team, though. I think the running game is definitely going to be very, very hard to, master what they're going to want to do there. Still, though, you have the best tight end in football, very capable options at receiver. Honestly, I think, again, Michael LaFleur, the biggest thing I want to see this year is him produce a legit Marvin Harrison Jr. season. If that happens, I don't really care what happens outside of that. Again, there's just a lot of contingencies in this offense that need to be fixed, and I'm just not really a big fan of what's going to, I think that, I'm just not confident all that stuff's going to happen. Defensively, I'm terrified. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Coverage-wise in the secondary, the rotations are going to be very, very hard to match. It's going to really come down to Will Johnson and Denzel Burke being not only comfortable in zone, but also being these legit man corners, which I think they can be, but it's a lot to ask. Garrett Williams is going to have to be one of the best slots in football for this defense to really succeed as well. Another big ask, and obviously we all know the biggest thing. Josh Sweat's going to have to be even better than he was last year. It's not going to happen, guys. I'll put it like that. Too much for me to ask there. I'm going to say a D for their identity and just really the overall schedule. There's a lot of things just not going their way, and it's going to be hard for me to think, unless Michael LaFleur really just nails this offseason or training camp, it's very, very hard for me to see them to be able to do all this. Still, though, they can see it through. Who really knows? If we add up the points, though, it's 111, 83, 7, 24, and 10. And that's going to be 235 points for this team. Again, they're not an untalented roster. It's just there's a lot of things that need to happen, and I'm not really thinking that's going to happen. I'm going to give them a C for their roster. Overall, it's not a bad group really at all. There's a lot of talent. It's just the fact that there's just too much that needs to happen, and I'm not confident it's going to happen, especially with their schedule. But with that, that's all I have for you guys, Cardinals fans. I hope this wasn't too harsh. I know, again, it's not like the least talented roster in the league or anything. That's all I have for y'all here. Hope you guys enjoyed. And the next team coming up, they're even more of a disaster.